This is E&P Reports from Editor and Publisher Magazine, the authoritative voice of news media since 1884, serving newspapers, broadcasts, digital, and all multimedia news publishing. Greetings, one and all. Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P Magazine, must do this boring housekeeping first. If you are listening to me on whatever podcast platform turns you on, please follow us. Watching this program on our YouTube channel, there is a subscribe button below, a bell to the right. Hit that puppy. You'll get an update each and every time we upload a new episode of E&P Reports. I have a new friend on this interview. Can I call you a friend? We're meeting virtually for the first time. Cheryl Smith. Cheryl? I can call you Cheryl. Well, that's great. You're a publisher, iMessenger Media LLC, which means you publish iMessenger, Texas Metro News, and the Garland Journal. I have that correct?
Yes.
And you are the current secretary of the National Association of Black Journalists, correct?
Oh, immediate past secretary.
Oh, there you see. You got to update that darn profile. I'm stalking you.
I really do. Someone just said that this week.
You have a broad background in media. You were a well listened to radio talk show host for many years in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Am I correct?
Yes, definitely.
But here's where I'm having fun. You are, and I'm sorry to bring this up, but I'm 65, so we're in the same boat. You're being honored in September as an E&P 15 over 50. Spoiler alert, it's now 25 over 50. We see, since we had some amazing people being nominated, including you, Cheryl. And the person who nominated you was Eva D. Coleman. Do you know Eva?
I know her very well. Yes.
She's quite a loquacious lady, isn't she? Because let me read some of the things. She put words in here that I had to look up. Throughout the African diasporas, seek her guidance in messaging advocacy. I had to look up diaspora. You know what that is? It describes people who have left their home country, usually involuntarily, to a foreign country. She put that word in your nomination. It's extremely hard to encapsulate all that Cheryl has done to serve this industry. And here's my favorite, another word I did not know, and I know this makes me seem ignorant, but whether it's supporting aspiring journalists through foundation scholarships awarded from proceeds from her over 2 decades long annual Don't Believe the Hype Celebrity Bowl-a-thon. You actually hosted a bowl-a-thon, annual Healthy Living Expo, teaching and advising the next generation of, is it griots? Do I have that word correct? Griot, which is, I know people are now saying, Mike, you're a moron. A member of a class of traveling poets, musicians, and storytellers who maintain a tradition of oral history in parts of West Africa. You got to tell her she's one of the most amazing, prolific writers, Eva. What a nomination. You must be very, very touched by her.
I was humbled, but she got one thing wrong, Mike. When I turned 50, I started counting backwards, so I'm actually ineligible for this category.
Can we make you a 25 under 35 then? Because we have that category too.
You know, and as a journalist, and I shouldn't say this because we're more words than numbers, I have to look and see what age am I supposed to be now? Because when we're 50, I start going 49, 48, 47, 46. So I said,
go ahead.
I said, how can I be one of the over 50 when I'm not 50 yet? You know?
You're going to have to take that up with Eva, but it's too late. The magazine went to press. Everybody's going to see your wonderful face. And we're going to talk about what you really are doing in Dallas, Texas with iMessenger Media right after this message.
This episode of E&P Reports is sponsored by IQ Audience Plus by Town News. Consumer revenue has never been more important. Digital leaders at media organizations worldwide are asking the same question. How do we accelerate the growth of consumer revenue? Traditional one-size-fits-all paywalls aren't the answer. They're blunt instruments that treat all visitors the same way, costing you money. IQ Audience Plus by Town News is a smart, dynamic metering solution that empowers you to maximize revenue by identifying key audiences, seeding engagement, and growing membership and subscriptions. Ready to supercharge your consumer revenue, grow engagement, and bolster your advertising income? Visit townnews.com/EP today to learn more about IQ Audience Plus by Town News.
Cheryl, first thing, what is iMessenger Media? Can you tell us? Because as I look at these publications, they're not really, they all say kind of the same target, which is women mostly, who are mobile. Give me the rundown of what your three publications, who they target, and what you're managing today, if you don't mind.
Okay, well, we have iMessenger Media, and we have iMessenger was the first publication. I was doing radio.
Yes.
It's sold 73 KKDA, and people would send me information, and I had nowhere to put it, so I started putting it in a newsletter. And the newsletter morphed into from one page to 2, 3, 4, and then someone said, "Well, how much is it to advertise in the newspaper?" And I looked like a deer caught in headlights because, of course, I didn't have the answer. And so I said, let me get back to you, because that's what Sean Rabb taught me in radio, that you never let them know what you don't know. And so you find the answer. And so the first check I got, Mike, I'll tell you, I held on to it for like 3 months because I didn't know what to do with it, because I was not doing it for that. But anyway, we fast forwarded, and we started accepting advertising. We set up everything. And then someone came to me and said, "Hey, there's somebody selling newspapers." And I said, "What?" I said, "The Dallas Morning News sells a newspaper every day." And they said, no, they want someone to purchase the newspaper. And I talked to the owner, and I treated him like he was a car salesman, because I don't go to buy a car unless I have a man with me, because I feel like they say, fresh meat, and they're going to take advantage of me. That's kind of bad to say. But anyway, I went to him and I just said, okay, I'm going to get a deal. So I purchased the newspapers, and there was one that was in Greenville, Texas. I based out of Greenville, Texas, and the other one was out of Garland, Texas. And I said, well, Garland has 250,000 people, African-American mayor. You look at a 30% Anglo, 30% African-American, maybe 10% Latino, and then 10% Asian. I was looking at the numbers, and I said, then you have a 10% honey boo boo, and different categories. And I said, we could make some things happen there. And I said, what am I going to do with the paper that was in Greenville? I said I'd never go to Greenville. Wasn't looking forward to going to Greenville to do business, because they had a sign up that said the blackest land and whitest people, and it just didn't seem inviting to me, And so I was talking to a friend, and she said, well, Cheryl, you don't have to go. You could name the paper whatever you want to. And so I said, yeah. And so that's where Texas Metro News came. And it was actually not the LeBron James of iMessenger Media. Garland Journal, I thought would be, but Texas Metro News, I envisioned it as a kind of like a USA Today of Texas, Black Texas.
Okay.
So that we'd have little stories from cities across Texas, and we're still morphing to that. Garland wanted to keep it, suburb of Dallas, keep it focused on activities and events and people there, and then surrounding areas. And then iMessenger is, primarily women.
Does iMessenger have a print component, or is it digital only?
It is printed maybe 5 times in 11 years. And
okay.
So we try to really keep it digital. And then, something we started, Mike, at the onset of COVID that has really taken off has been, we do a daily newsletter.
Of course.
And we were trying to educate people about COVID. But it would be so depressing. I said, okay, I told my team we're going to have we have to have stories on COVID, we have to have stories on social justice, and we have to have feel-good stories. And it is taken off so much so. I'll tell you a little joke among us. We do whatever day it is. Like if it's lemon pie day, we'll say it's lemon pie day. And so it was National Couples Day earlier this in August. And I said, let me find some couples who are having anniversaries. And we had everyone from former President Jimmy and Rosalind Carter. They were celebrating their anniversary. So I just did it for that day. I started getting calls, emails, and texts saying, oh, what a wonderful feature. We're glad you started it. Mike, it was only for that one day. It was supposed to be for National Couples Day. So now I have put my staff to work getting anniversaries for me because people like it so much.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what we do.
You want my advice? I say you're in the right track. One of the things I remember when E&P in the old days, remember, was thriving, and it was like, by the way, E&P was mostly recruitment revenue, and that's the internet took that away. That's why it was in trouble. But now but I used to always go to the back first where they had news people and all the faces. I've expanded that now. I think this is our biggest issue ever coming out. You're in September. It's 92 pages. But I think it's 7 pages of just news people. Faces work. You know that, Cheryl.
Really? Yeah. And that's what I tell people. If you came into my office and saw a bunch of sticky notes on my desk, covering my desk, you wouldn't pay attention to them. If you come in there and there are pictures, you were just going to have to pick it up.
They call it Facebook for a reason, don't they, Cheryl? It's just like people don't get that sometimes. If there are people in your communities, get their pictures in your damn publication. And if you can't do that, put it in the website, get it in your newsletter. People rock. And I don't know how many times I said, and it's one of the things we focus on now. I won't let a story about a person go up without a picture. I'm demanding it now.
And why do people send? I said, do they not know? What are they not teaching in J schools across the country? Don't send it if you don't have a picture.
Right.
Accompanying it.
Faces work, especially when you post the story on social media. Then the shares go away. I mean, this is just 101, but I'm glad you get it too. Okay, I have to ask the management questions because there's so many managers of media listening to us right now. How large is your staff? How many people work full-time for you now?
Okay, well, you see one person, I'll turn around. You see number 2. I'm going to turn around again. You see number 3. No, just teasing. We have a wonderful team. It was bigger in the summer because we had a number of wonderful interns.
Right.
But I have a team. What I have assembled, and you asked about NABJ. NABJ is really important to me, as well as the National Newspaper Publishers Association, which I am the treasurer of. The beauty of it is that you do have a lot of newspapers, especially in the Black press. The publishers are not journalists. Okay. I have a journalism degree from the Florida A&M University, celebrating 40 years of accreditation this year. And I have a business degree also. So when you mesh them together, I know a little something, but I do have, when you say the team I have 6 editors.
Wow.
I have a general manager, associate publisher who does some of everything. And then I have a team because people don't leave unless this is sad to say, unless they pass away, because once they're a part of the team, they find some way to remain a part of it. And
that's just a credit to your work culture. That's amazing.
Well, it's tough though. We don't, and I'm sure you have to do a lot of things. You have to know more than just writing and editing.
I don't know. I handle my wife does all that. I handle the business side. I'm in charge of advertising.
Well, see, I am glad you realized that she is running things.
She runs the magazine. She runs the books. My job is and she always says, how much did we take in today? How much did we collect? I worry about the money. And that funds the news operation. But
and it is so important. But but I between 10 and 25 are on, but I have, like I say, a number of journalists who have other jobs and work for me as well.
Okay, so the next question then is, and I don't want to start dissecting each publication because we don't have that much time, but in general, when you wake up in the morning, how large is your audience? How many human beings do you say you would be impacting in a month across all three brands? And that includes social media, email, print, digital. Are you in the tens of thousands?
But see, let me tell you what happens. Mike, I don't know if you were aware that I'm in a partnership, a collaboration with the Dallas Morning News.
I read that. I was going to bring that up. So go ahead. Let's spin that letter, Vanna.
So that helps, you know,
Yeah.
and that was really something. I know Mike Wilson and Keith Campbell, they were just Jamie, people with that team. And then it morphed on to Grant Moyes, who, and then even when Catrice Hardy took over as executive editor, wanted to keep this going because we can work together. Collaboration is big.
Of course.
And it benefits our audiences, and that's what we need to do. So I had that audience. I also am a part of National Newspaper Publishers Association. We have over 200 Black-owned newspapers across the country, and our work goes out that way. We go out on the Black News Link that we're talking about millions and internationally because of the scope of our papers. But I'm really proud of, like, even our newsletter. If I went to it now, it goes out 7:00 every day, and usually by now, and really by 10:00, we have over like 17-18% open rate.
Good for you.
And by the end of the day, it's usually around 27%. And so we're working on building that and continue. But what I have done is put all of my publications in with I have partnered with others, so it goes out, and it has actually several tentacles, several arms out there reaching different audiences, because every story is local today.
All right, so let's discuss this. You have become, and correct me if I'm wrong, pretty much the Black focused, actually those of color focused voice for the Dallas Morning News. In other words, your publication is helping to cover that beat so it's a win-win, right? Because then you have the reporters covering that beat. They help amplify your news to their large audience. Again, I'm a business guy. Are you compensated for that? Does the Dallas Morning News pick up some of the costs of your editors for that? Or is there a revenue share? Or is it just a way that you're amplifying your audience? And if I'm asking questions that are in an NDA you can't answer, just tell me to shut up and we'll move on. But I'm curious.
Oh, no. And you know, and there's someone that kind of is like I won't even give them much attention to say what they're kind of like, but they keep asking, what was this worth? What was this deal worth? It's a small fee.
Okay.
That there are certain things that are paid for, and they help us to grow. But guess what? Also, for example, last year, in January, we announced that Deion Sanders, because of the work he is doing with Jackson State University, but not only that, but for historically Black colleges and universities, we named Deion Sanders as our Person of the Year. And so I needed pictures of him. And so guess what? My partner over there at the Dallas Morning News, and you know, he played for the Cowboys. So I called the Morning News, said, hey, I need pictures of Deion. Got a bunch of pictures, I didn't have to worry about paying for it. Then I called the Clarion Ledger, and that's the beauty of the NABJ connection. And also the editor then was from Florida A&M. Marlon Walker, and he sent me pictures. And that's what is big. They helped me make a feature better. And so I do get compensation for some of our stories, but we do more than that. I will get a call about confirming a community, confirming someone who are sources, because I love helping people diversify their sources, but I also encourage them to have their employees who are there diversify their Rolodexes. Rolodex isn't the right word to use, is it?
We get what you mean, but it's like dial a phone, you know?
Exactly. And so that's what we're able to help each other. And some things, they are helping me really morph into a daily publication, because they helped me by understanding, because when you're weekly, you say, oh, I missed it, we'll get it in next week. Now, because of all these platforms, we're getting it in right now. We can put it up online, and previously I was like, okay, it goes up on in the paper, then we put it up online. No, we put it up online, we get it out there for folks. So there are a lot of things that we're learning and that we're able to share. We don't do just editorial, Mike. We do town hall meetings together. We've talked about if COVID it had not taken over, there were more public events we would have been doing. And I tell you what, if the Dallas Morning News still printed their papers, they'd be printing mine too, because I would have put that in the deal.
Of course you would. You started at the Capitol Outlook here in Florida, in Tallahassee. You then went into television. I love your background because it's so varied. Then you were at the Dallas Weekly, and then KKDA came along. You worked as a producer, but then became this very, very highly listened to talk show host for 22 years. My background, I started as a disc jockey with a degree in marine biology. And I went into sales. Before I knew it, I was managing radio, then television, and I started an online newspaper, one of the first, and I think it was 1998. So that's how I got on the digital side of this industry. But I have become the influencer, the voice of E&P. You see what I'm saying? I use those skills to host this program. Are you doing any of that now? Do you miss the mic? Have you not thought of a podcast? What are you doing to take those interview skills that you're so good at and continue that in today's voice-oriented world? Have you thought of it?
Well, and I have, because when I was at KKDA, we started simulcasting on Blog Talk Radio. I don't get a chance to do it as much because everyone wants video. I could go into the radio station, looking like who done it and why. But now you can't do that. And then too, Mike, and you initially, even at Florida A&M, my professors were like, do television. And I was a print snob.
Yeah.
You said some of our audience know I just thought that print journalists were more intelligent than broadcasters. So when you
are a snob. When Fox News says the word elite media, your picture's going to start showing up. You know that.
And say, well, at least it won't be for fake. Yeah. But when I first got the call from the station manager, Chuck Smith at KKDA, he said, can you say what you write? And I said, excuse me. He said he wanted me to do commentaries. And I was like, no, not interested. Radio, just no. And he kept on. And then 22 years later, I was still doing it. I love doing it. I also taught because I taught at Paul Quinn College, University of North Texas, Texas Women's University, and now Dallas College. And that keeps me fresh because students need actual practitioners, folks who have been in the newsroom.
I swear that's my biggest challenge when sometimes I go visit J schools and I go, they're the people who are teaching them have not run a professional organization and dealt with the data. I'm not being negative about it. I'm saying it's nice for them to be taught by someone who has to run a business, right? Both sides of the equation. Let me tee up this next question for you, if I may. And this is a hard one, because it frustrates me. I made the rounds when COVID kind of abated. I don't want to say it's gone, but was less of an issue. All the conventions started again. And I offered my services as a keynote speaker to any media conference for free. Just fly me in because I wanted to get E&P back in the game. Right. And I did 14 conferences this year, I think. And I'm talking some big ones too. New York Press, heck, the Mega Conference, a niche media had 450 in Atlanta. All in all, I think I was in front of maybe 3,000 media executives this year. And this will not surprise you, I think. I think I could count the people in the audience of color on my hands and feet. I mean, I think it was that small.
Really? You even added your feet in? I can't tell you how many. I did a column and I call it if you call it Hollywood Squares or the Brady Bunch. And, and I find that I'm so often the only one
in the room
like this. And then I remember one organization, they said, I'm working on this with this organization. They say, didn't you say you'd be over our diversity committee? I said, nope, sure didn't. Because for me, if the organization isn't making an effort, you're not going to put it all on me to do it. I have to see something happening within the organization. But when you have honors, I'm looking at a group of honorees and no one looks like me, or the people who are running the programs. I have to see everyone. It should not be one person is responsible. It should be the entire organization.
Well, I always say that
get us in.
I always say diversity is easy because all you have to do is pay a lot of money, hire a headhunter, and hire someone of color. The problem is equity, inclusion. There's not a lot of people, maybe you disagree with me, of color that want to work within legacy media right now. Do you find that to be the reason? Or is...
And I remember applying for, Capital Outlook was Black owned. The owner sold the paper when he went to work for in President Reagan's cabinet. But I look at sometimes if you have to fight all the time, don't send me out into my community to cover it. And when I bring the stories back, you who have never been in that community try to tell me how this story should flesh out. And so you're saying, well, this person is perceived as this, but you have not a clue. For me, and I've talked about this with the Dallas Morning News extensively, that folks, and especially editors, have to get from behind that desk and get out in the communities and get to know your audiences. And it should not be on me to be the NAACP of every organization I belong to.
Well, then is there a solution? I mean,
there's a big solution there. The same thing that you do for others. Okay, you can say, and I've done this even with NABJ, that I've said, okay, we don't need to have a panel on how to edit Black newspapers. Have a panel on editing and include an editor from the Black newspaper in that panel. Is no difference, when you say, how do you cover a community? The same thing that the Latino, that the Asian, the Native American, that all the LGBTQ, those communities want, it's the same thing that the Black community wants. And I think that when people look around a room and they see that this is not America, that room that you see that, and I know this is going to just get some people riled up, but it's true, because I look at it, and when I look at a Trump rally, I look for people who look like me.
You're lucky if you find one. Okay, well, this is what bothers me. Okay, I took a brand that's 140 years old, ENP. People told me not to do it when I was doing the due diligence. I had to sign an NDA, and then I brought some friends in and had them sign an NDA. People who were very, very into it. And they said, don't do this. It's dead. It wasn't dead. It was a brand that needed polishing, modernized. And Disney has survived many, many decades. I want legacy media to survive, period. I think these brands are too important. They've been serving communities for hundreds of years. However, the youth of today has no interest in working for these brands. Are we in trouble? I'm asking you, you are one of the top leaders, Black journalists, editors, whatever. You're on the boards. You're highly respected. We're honored to have you. It's 25 over 50. In your opinion, go ahead and piss someone off. Is it too late? Can a Dallas Morning News, can a Buffalo, can a Denver Post change its perception among the Gen Zs who are essentially colorblind, at least the ones I know? You see what I'm saying? Well, I was brought up in the 60s. Rev Al would call me a latte liberal, right? But is there a future for these brands in your humble opinion?
Well, and you bring up a lot of points there, Mike, because first off, and we don't want anybody to be colorblind. And that is the problem with so many. We want them to see the color. Now, what I can say is there appears to be a dumbing down of America. And I was at a panel, I was at a convention, and they had young Gen Zers or whatever they are, which I still contend that when they were coming up with all those designations, they were not talking about people of color, and we buy into it. But there's something to be said. You had the young people on the panel saying, I think they're going to look back later, because they were actually saying, we don't read. And they were proudly saying, we don't read, we don't write, we take notes with this. And it's like a dumbing down of America. So you have to find a balance. We have to find a balance in how we deliver information to them. We have to find out, and this will become a really critical during the election time, because you can't give these young folks the same argument you gave to me for voting. Why is it important to vote? You have to break it down and say you're not getting A because of this person who's in office and what's happening. So when you talk about, is it gone? A classic example, in Texas, we have all kind of issues. I think we're just, on a coattails of Florida.
I want to battle you on that one. I think we're number one for absurdity, but if you want to, maybe we're equal. Go ahead.
Well, I can tell you one time I was in Florida because, I'm a rattler, and I was in town and the TV was on. They were talking about Governor Bush. It just so happened both of us had governors named Bush at the same time. So I just thought I was back in Dallas.
I remember those days. But on the go,
we have some work to do on getting a happy medium, because when we had the power outages and everything, there comes a time when, guess what? You may not be able to get your battery charged. Depending on, we try to put our paper where we.
What an analogy! Wow.
And you're not, you're holding on to the power that you have, and you walk around like a crack addict trying to find a place to charge your phone up. So you want to save that.
So you just
power. So guess what? You pick up this. You pick up a paper and read it. And sometimes, for some people, like when we're out at places, like if we know we're going to a place where certain age groups are, we try to have what they want, and you have to talk to them. You get the beauty of 98 doing the stuff.
You're blowing my mind, because I've had other DEI advocates from all different shapes and stripes scream about the importance of diversity, but you're saying, don't talk diversity till you fix the industry. You basically took me up to 35,000 feet and said, the news publishing industry, news in general, has got to fix itself first. This is a fascinating argument. I mean, one of the things, okay, let me put this in perspective. It depressed me when I read that talk show hosts are going away, because I was brought up in the era of Johnny Carson, right? Okay. You know what I mean? That was an influencer of mind-boggling, because, I'm so old. I came up through that. Is all this news that people are consuming now in what they call the echo chambers, the MSNBC only talks to one type, Fox talks to one type, is that all going to go away, in your opinion? Is that the challenge? Where are we at as a society when it comes to producing quality journalism? And
where do you get it from? Do you know when it is quality and who you're getting it from? It's really interesting, because I would sit in class and I could be really unorthodox in class, and a student would say, I want to be a radio personality. I said, well, first you got to get a personality. And then, and then I tell them the industry has morphed to a certain point. That call that I got from Chuck Smith asking me, and he was basically shaping who I was going to be in radio. They're not doing that today. But if you look at radio, a lot of the radio people are comedians, actors, singers. They're getting people who already have numbers. You have to come with a following. So I don't know, the pendulum, it swings one way and another. And I'm like, oh gosh, what is this world going to look like in 100 years? And I just hope that we can do some things that when we look back, when people are looking back, they won't say we were all idiots. What the heck were y'all doing? What did you fight every change? I'm old enough to have come from the big CompuGraphic machines. And then I saw when they went from hot metal, and there were people who did not want to transition from hot metal to computers, and they retired. They said, no, this is over. There are people who do not want, you can't say, I hate Facebook, I hate Twitter, I hate Instagram. No, you have to get with the program. And what I have found, I have people who are in their 80s. I know my mom, I took a picture of her, and she said, I don't want to be on Facebook. I don't want to be on Facebook. Then she said, wait a minute. She said, "Can Eleanor and Virginia and New Jersey see my picture on Facebook?" And I said, "Yes, mother." So then she was okay with it. But we have to continue evolving. That's why I would tell young people, as I taught them, that you are not grown, you are growing. And you have to keep, that's what I say in the news, not in just in the newsroom, but in the classroom, because it keeps me fresh.
It keeps you fresh. I agree.
You know.
I'll give you one of my favorite expressions. It's how many psychiatrists does it take to change a light bulb? The answer is one, but the light bulb has got to want to change in the first place. But with that being said, we got to wrap this up, because everybody says I go too long on these things, and they say people can't listen past 20 minutes, and we're already at our 30.
But they don't have me and you together.
Yeah, you're right.
You know
what? Go on for hours. I'm going to do a little speed dating with you. I went over a wonderful salute to you in E&P magazine. Spoiler alert: she is a 25 or 50, although you don't look it. You're most probably 37, and you lied about the nominee just to get you into it. But I want to. We always ask at the end of the interview, give what have you learned over your years? Because we only pick mentors, people who are using their knowledge and helping others to grow. So I'm going to say something you said, and I want you to, within a minute, I know that's hard for you, define what you meant. You said one of the things was research, clarify, verify, and never assume. What did you mean by that?
Oh, that is so important, because we get that so much today from a society of young people who don't like to be wrong. And they assume all we have is our work and our worth when all is said and done. I was teaching a class, and we were talking about whether you should be cremated. And a student said, "No, I want the monument there. I want the tombstone saying that I was there." And I said, if the only way we can show that you were here is by that tombstone, then you really weren't here. You were just existing. It should be in the work that you do and how you serve.
You should stop holding back and tell people how you really feel. Okay, next one. Everyone has a story. What did you mean by that?
They do. I mean, if you sit and listen, that's what we need to do instead of trying to out talk folks. Have you ever had people they have a list of questions they want to ask? So you're asking those questions. If I had 10 questions based on how you answer my first question, could totally make the whole interview take a turn in a different direction because of my response. If you are listening, instead of just trying to elicit an answer and move on.
Here's the final one. Take advantage of opportunities to collaborate. And I love this, reinvent. I think I know where you're heading with this, because this entire conversation was about that, but go ahead.
Yes, that is so big. I can tell you, one day I was running to a meeting with the Dallas Morning News, and I just made it on time on this infamous Zoom. And I said, "Oh, I'm so glad I made it here," because I said I was just coming from a story, found out a restaurant was feeding kids food during the summer, and basketball great Spud Webb was going to be there giving away pictures to the students. And I went to take pictures, and Jamie at the Morning News and said to me, she said, "Why didn't you call me? We could have sent a photographer there." And I paused. I said, "I have backup. I have somebody here working with me. We are a team." And that's what, you can't be everywhere and you will stress yourself out. I have so many stories in my head that I would love to cover, but I don't get to do it. But I have a team, and so I can share. And who wins? We all win. And more importantly, the ones we're really trying to serve, our audiences, win.
Cheryl Smith, publisher of iMessenger Media LLC, which includes iMessenger. Well, now we know the history of that. Texas Metro News, Garland Journal. By the way, belated congratulations on your induction at the NABJ in Vegas. That was a big deal for you. You must have thought that quite an honor.
It was. I don't believe. I say don't believe the hype. I'm hype. You can believe, but that was one that it's just one of the best things that has ever happened.
There's a video of you being honored in Vegas we're going to put on the page. Those of you that found us on Spotify, please go back to editorandpublisher.com. That's A-N-D publisher /vodcasts and watch this YouTube video. I mean, Cheryl, it is an amazing moment. And I wish I was there. We should have been at the NABJ. There's so many conferences to select and travel. You know, air travel is so damn expensive now, as you know. But darn it, what an honor for you. God, congratulations. We are also honored to have you on this platform. I'd like to invite you back. Thank you for being a reader of ENP. And moreover, congratulations on being a 25 over 50. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. It has been an honor, and this, is the beginning. And I look forward to coming back and just chit chat and just, we want to do better, and the best way we can do better is to engage.